Hi everybody, it's Nettie Kaye. I'm back at the studio after a couple of weeks taking a bit of a break from filming as I had a nasty bout with rheumatoid arthritis that hit me so bad that I couldn't even hardly dress myself. So anyway, we're sitting up again and I'm working on a new commission of a special little dog. I don't know really what this dog is. It looks a little bit like a golden retriever, only the ears are a little bit more flat and kind of back. I'm guessing it's kind of a golden lab or golden retriever of some kind, maybe a little mix. So the thing that I like about this one is that it's got a really, really big nose. And so I'm going to mix a little phthalo blue with a little raw umber to give me my dark tones. And I'm going to begin with this great big huge nose and split it down the middle. And it's going to go down a little ways. Now remember, when you're doing a dog's nose, often the area right below where the nose is, we'd make that too long, and so don't make that too long. I've gotten this drawing underneath it, so I'll let you see what it looks like. I'll do a little sketch here of the outline of the nose. I toned the canvas ahead of time. Actually, I did the drawing in graphite and then sprayed it with hairspray as usual. So if you've watched any of my other videos, it's the same thing. We don't change the technique too much very often. And so I've got the little nostrils, I'm just putting them in. They're huge. You can't help but be able to see this. That's great. And let's put that in. So that's the shape of this. And then we have his little sad little mouth. Huh, so cute. Got quite the expression. One of my Facebook friends took a look at it and said, oh, it looks like he's got a face as though the owner is just talking about the sandwich, the yummy sandwich that the owner just made for the cat. And he's telling the dog, and the dog's going, really? Yeah. Oh well. And I'm going to put in a little bit of the pupil so you can see that right there. And I'll go and do a little rim around the outside of the eye, like this, and there at least we can kind of tell where that is. All right, so so that you can tell a little bit more where the dog is, I'll just make a little bit of a line here for you. The background here. I'm going to actually, the colors that I've got laid out are raw sienna. I've got raw umber, raw sienna, transparent orange, a little bit, I may use it, I may not, alizarin crimson, and a manganese violet, and let's see what else. Oh, phthalo turquoise and phthalo blue, along with my medium that helps the paint move, plus white. Okay, and so I don't have black. I didn't need black for the nose because I'm not really using black. My black is just made by putting the raw umber together with the phthalo blue, and so that gives me my dark tonal value. As it comes up here, there's a little bit of a grayish feel here and a little gray right underneath. There's a lot of different ways of making dark values, and you can use a lot of different colors to make a dark value. You don't have to use black. In fact, black is very flat and doesn't give a lot of exciting tone, so, or a lot of exciting color options. It's just black. So if you can, choose something else, choose something else. So the front of the nose is in shadow a little bit, so I'm putting the light, it looks like the light's coming from my right side down onto the dog's left side of his head, and this part of the mouth above the nose is in a dark gray. So I'll put that in, and that's made by raw umber again, and a little bit of alizarin crimson and a touch of phthalo blue with a little bit of white. All right, I'll just kind of pat this in. I'm using way too small a brush. That's silly. So we'll get a little bit of a bigger brush. This one's a Blick number 8 Filbert. And Filberts are great. They really work well for this sort of thing. So you don't end up with, boxy lines. So there we go. I've got his little mouth, that little mustache working, and I'll work my way out. Then I'll get a little bit more light onto that mixture. I just add white to it, and I'll put that right here underneath the nostril and a little bit over on the other side. There we go. Then let's put this, see, it has kind of a bit of almost a lavender look to it. We'll fill in this area, and I'll give it a little bit of a middle gray. It's a lavender gray. And then let's go like that. And then I'm going to take some white with a little bit of my purple. Okay, this is either manganese purple or a violet of some sort. It doesn't really matter too much what the violet is. It just happens to be violet. Okay, violet with a little bit of white and whatever's on our brush. Notice I haven't really cleaned my brush yet. I don't need to at this stage. And so, oh, and I've got another light tonal value over here where the light is kind of coming back at the little critter's face. But it's very, very light then right on top of here. See, that's white, okay, and I'm going to now take that and kind of model it a little bit by just dabbing away at it like this, okay? And then back into the dark tones again, and want to put in that dark right underneath the nose like this. You can see why there's an advantage to toning the canvas, because you don't want to be painting a white stroke on a white canvas. It just doesn't register. So say like I'm wiping off my brush a little bit, and I'm going to come out along the edge of the nose. That's really bright, so I think I'll put that up here. And yeah, sometimes you don't know what you've got on your brush until you lay it down. Sometimes it's a total shock. That's why I use a toned canvas and a toned palette. I use a Gray Matters palette so that it isn't such a shock to me. Okay, now let's grab a little bit of straight raw sienna, and I'm going to put that right here. It's got a little bit of white on my brush. There's a bit of the muzzle that is in the raw sienna realm. And then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of that purple to that combination. Add a little bit of purple as it goes back into space. Okay, and I'm going to put that purple, again, a little bit of purple right here as the black turns into something else. You don't want to have just an abrupt black to white. You want to ease into it a little bit. One of the fun combinations of color will be a violet with a little bit of teal. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. Violet with a little teal and white. And now I'm going to put that in. It's a little bit like our background. It's a great shadow color too. There. Violet, teal, and white. I use that a lot for my shadow color. All right, now let's get into some even brighter color. And I'm going to use that violet, teal, and white, only I'm going to add some more white to it. And we'll come around and begin adding that white to the part of the muzzle that comes way out the farthest. And I think under here it's kind of in shadow a little bit. So I'll add a little bit of that violet and teal with my white and put it not quite so bright right underneath. There, that's coming out. Now, I have the color transparent orange on my palette, and I'm going to add a huge amount of white to that. That's a very, very, very warm color. And we'll see what that looks like when I lay that on. Wow, that's seriously bright. But I definitely want one side of the face to be much brighter than the other side of the face. And then everything else will be in shadow. I've got a little bit more of that up here, but it's not quite so bright, so I'm going to add just the orange color to it, right there. and a little bit more of that over on this side of the dog, this side of the dog. Let's go into the raw umber and raw sienna for this darker area right up above the muzzle where it starts. And I'm just going in the direction of the hair. I'm not filling in the color. Oh, here's a patch of brown, let me fill that in or color it in. It's not a coloring book, everybody. We're going in the direction of the hair. So we don't just fill it in, we actually use the direction of the hair to tell us which direction our brush strokes are going. And this is also the same tonal value and color down here. It's very, very dark right here. And then it kind of comes up around the eye a little bit. Very dark. And then it gets really dark right around the eye itself. So we'll shape this out by putting this tone up next to that tone. And then I'm going to add a little bit of transparent orange with the raw sienna, and I'm putting medium on it each time. This time, now this is the Neo Megilp medium that I'm using. And we'll just kind of work our way up. I work over, a lot of the times I work over the whole painting at one time. So if I have one particular color and tone on my brush and I see it somewhere else, I'll go, oh, here, let's go down over here, that same color like that. And so that I don't waste a stroke, I just keep adding to it. Okay, this is another bit of that darker tone as it goes back into space, only pretty warm. I'm going to add just a little bit of purple to it. Let's see what happens. There, that's a little darker as it goes back in. And then that ear is still in a bit of shadow there. And this is very, very dark right there. And it's the same dark down here. So you see I'm just jumping around a little bit. Jumping around. And I want to put that dark tone. There's an area underneath here. I don't know if you guys can see that, so maybe I'll save that for later. Okay, now I'm going to go back in and make sure I've got the shape right, and then put the dark around this muzzle right like this. And I just picked up a little bit of white on my brush, so I got to be careful of that. A little more dark here. And then this I'm going to move into that purple color onto my brush. A little purple with raw sienna. Putting the ring around the eye now with the dark brown, which is the raw sienna. No, raw umber, sorry. It's the raw umber and whatever else is on my brush, but I just want it nice and dark. And then I'll do the same thing over here. This one's got a kind of a weird little raised eyebrow there, so I'll give it a little bit of a shape like this. And then we'll go like this. And then the ear is also very, very, very dark as it turns, as it's away from the light. And we'll give that a light over the eye. And then I'll shape out the face a little bit with it like that. And then I brush it back and forth so that it doesn't look like it doesn't belong. And soften up the outside edge. When the shape changes directions, I have to have a change in tonal value. It either has to be light or has to be dark or something. It has to make a shift. Okay, that's looking good. Now I need to get some of that purple. This purple is a really important color in that it's kind of opposite to it's complementary to the yellow. So I do add a lot of purple in the tones rather than just lighter brown, darker brown in a dog. I will add purple. This one is actually a real spendy Old Holland, which is a manganese violet, and I just love it. And because it's a more expensive paint, you know, I know some of you guys are like, ooh, I don't want to use a lot of expensive paint. But the neat thing about that is the pigment power, I would say, is much stronger. In other words, it has more pigment particles than in some of the cheaper brands. And so if I add white to it, it will extend much, much farther than a cheaper brand of paint. And it's just, that's what makes it better. It's sometimes it's the kind of paint or the kind of materials they use, but most of the time it's just the intensity of the pigment itself. It just lasts forever. I can get so many different effects just by the amount of white that I use or the amount of each different color, whether it be the transparent orange or the raw sienna or the purple. Now, this obviously is not correct. Let's see, I'm going to come down, double check my measurements, and have it come into there. It just feels too fat, so I'm going to move the ear in just a little bit farther, and then I'm going to double check my measure, come up. Now, this muzzle, I'm going to lose it if I don't get the right tonal value in. I want the muzzle to come out farther. So every time we have these different planes going on here, I've got the plane that goes across the bridge of the nose, and then the one that kind of comes down. And then we have also the across the front of the mouth or the muzzle, and across the front of the nose. So I'm going to go back in with a dark value again and make some corrections. So I need a distinction between this cheek and the muzzle. So I got to make that. Those eyes really look googly, don't they? Okay, let's put a little bit of transparent orange and raw umber together and create our little eye with that. Come in like this. And now it may be a little bit more brown than gold, so but we'll start with this part, a little bit of gold, and then I'll darken it with maybe some purple or something. We'll see. Come in over here, do the same thing here. And now I'm going to take just some raw umber and put this, boy, these, it's just kind of interesting. Put it right underneath the lid. Hello, how are you? Coco Chabot. He goes bananas when he sees the TV. Would you like to see Coco Chabot? Okay, just a sec. All right, hang on, Coco. Coco, come here. Okay, come here. Come on. Woo! Okay. Coco was getting just a little bit jealous of the big dog on the easel. He barks at every dog on the TV, and he barks even at cartoon dogs. So if anybody has any tips on how to get that to stop, I'm all ears, okay? Oh, yeah, I know. Oh, little cuddle time. All right. Cuddling time. Everybody needs a cuddle now and then. So this is another reason why I don't get as much done. So, okay. Well, this is a really good start. I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll show you how it ends up in the end. Oh, wait. First, I got to put the highlight on. I want to show you how to make the highlight, and then I'll finish it and show you the final product. Okay, you guys, if you're paying attention, you'll note that my hair looks different and my clothes are different, and it's actually the next day. I had to go to a music performance rehearsal, and then tonight I have another 2 performances in my vocal part of my art. Anyway, let's do a few more things on this painting before we give it a rest. And so first off, I wanted just to focus a little bit on those eyes. And so we're going to be using then some phthalo blue with the brown in order to get that really dark tone for around the eyes. And so I'm going to re-emphasize that right up around the rim of the eye, the actual cornea. And then I'm going to do the same thing right here on this eye, and hopefully they'll look as though they are the same as far as their size. That's really important. So I'm adding a little bit of brown with transparent orange again, and I have to remember that the light is coming from my right side and the dog's left side, and so it will come out on the opposite side. The light will shine through and come out on the opposite side. Let me re-emphasize as well this pupil, because I don't need the highlight in the wrong position. So here we go. I've got just the color in the eye, in the iris. Oops, it looks like we've got a little odd shape here. So I'll pull that out a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to take a pointed brush, and I will make sure it's nice and pointed, and I'm going to now go into my white and put a very, very small dot that overlaps the pupil and the cornea of the eye. See how that goes? And in the exact same spot, about 1 o'clock on the dog's eye, I put that, and it just comes to life. Now while I have that on my brush, I'm going to just kind of wiggle a little bit of it on the opposite side of the eye. And I know that's still way too bright, so I'm wiping my brush off, and then I'm going to wiggle back and forth with the wet paint underneath. Kind of wiggle it back and forth, and then it just kind of glows a little bit. That might glow just a little too much, and I'll have to bring it back with a little bit more of the raw umber. I know it looks really cool, but the dog does not have gold eyes, so I'm going to go back in with a little bit of raw umber and kind of glaze and graze over the top of that eye with the raw umber. So it mixes a little bit with the raw umber, the wet paint beneath. And so it cools it down into more of a brown and less of a gold eye. There's a little bit of a gold flavor in it, but not really. So maybe just a little bit more. I know it's almost irresistible sometimes to not want to just leave that transparency. But the brown eyes often are not as transparent as other color eyes. All right, when you have a brown eye on a person as well, you don't really see that light shining through because it's very dark. And so on blue eyes and green eyes and gray eyes, you're going to be able to see that transparent light that goes through on the opposite side of the highlight. Okay, I'm going to head off for my concert right now, and when I get back I'll finish it, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Be right back.